Stray Cat Part 1. As you know, games usually progress from the protagonist's point of view, so there's not much for someone like me, who has already fallen and exited the stage, to do. However, the silver lining is that I've already gone through the protagonist's perspective several times. If I think about the timing and the academy schedule, I can roughly guess what events are currently unfolding, so there's no need to feel frustrated about not knowing what situation the academy is in or what's going on. It's somewhat comforting, actually. I've even discovered things I never knew while always progressing from the perspective of Taylor, the protagonist. For example, how the curriculum in the Department of Magic is conducted. Taylor, aptly titled the Failed Sword Saint, belongs to the combat department, so there's no way to know what life is like for the students in the Department of Magic. Likewise, things happening outside of Taylor's activities are also unknown. The new buildings and statues being erected under the sponsorship of Lortel, the Golden Daughter, or the small royal guard stationed at the entrance of the faculty building for the protection of Henia, the Princess of Mercy. Such things are outside the main stage but clearly show turning, which felt refreshingly new to me. While playing Sylvania's Failed Swordsman. Even while playing Steward Swordsman, there were many incidents whose aftermaths I was curious about, though they weren't directly revealed. There are too many to count, but if I had to pick just one, yes, it would be Yenneker Failover. As the final boss of Act 1, her story of falling under the clutches of the high-ranking dark spirit, Robespierre, is not given much importance. Officially, she's the final boss of Act 1, but the real boss is actually the high-ranking dark spirit Glaskin's right hand, whom she summons. However, high-ranking dark spirits are known to descend through a sorcerer's inner darkness, or pessimistic thoughts. While it's not unusual to find darkness in anyone's heart, whether big or small, Yenneker Failover seemed completely detached from such darkness. I know her brightness is natural, and her vivacity is innate. What could have led Yenneker Failover to fall into the clutches of a high-ranking dark spirit? Of course, I don't have the leisure to worry about that much. Anyway, Taylor will take care of Glaskin's right hand, who has taken over the student council building. It's way too hard. About 10 days have passed since the school reopened. Am I really going to die at this rate? I was taking a break on a wooden bench near the faculty building at dusk when, suddenly, a moment of enlightenment hit me without any warning. My daily routine since the reopening of school goes like this. Wake up before dawn. Wash my body in the stream to make sure there's no smell. Thoroughly clean every nook and cranny. I wear my everyday clothes, freshly laundered each day, and jog from the northern forest to the faculty building. By the time I arrive, I'm drenched in sweat, so I sneak into the faculty building's restroom in Gluck Hall for another wash. Then, I change into the uniform I brought with me, hiding my everyday clothes in the bushes of the rose garden in the faculty building to pick up after school. I then head to the classroom building where classes are held. From this point on, I start encountering various nobles' children and top students. So I have to be careful to behave properly. My reputation within the academy is at rock bottom, so I have to endure all sorts of gossip whispered in my ears whenever I show my face. Lately, it feels odd not to hear such backbiting. I've even gotten used to being treated like an invisible person in various classes. When it's lunchtime, I can't afford to eat in the luxurious Ophelius Hall cafeteria or the Student Council building's cafeteria, so I have my packed lunch. It's basically a wild diet I've prepared from camp. Lately, I've been making good use of jerky, salted with rock salt. I dried the salted meat on a makeshift drying rack for about 3 days, and it turned out to be decent jerky. It's portable, fills you up well, and even boosts my cooking skills. After barely satiating my hunger, I finish the afternoon classes as an invisible person, and then it's after school. I retrieve my everyday clothes hidden among the rose bushes and set off for the northern forest. If I leave around sunset, I arrive as it gets dark. I decided to jog back to train my stamina, but after starting practical lessons that directly use magic, I was so drained that I just walked back slowly. Once I returned to camp, I first washed my sweat-soaked everyday clothes. They need to be dried for the next day's use. I also check my uniform to make sure it's always clean and dignified. I inspect for any dirty or torn parts, and if found, I mend them with thread taken from other fabrics. After quickly finishing the clothing check, it's time to do the day's tasks, which vary. If I'm running low on herbs or medicinal plants, I go gathering. I check the condition of the prepared wood. If the stockpile of meat in the cave is running low, I go hunting, though using a harpoon or makeshift spear is easier. Considering the future, I force myself to hunt with a bow to improve my proficiency. If the day's hunting yield is too poor, I resort to other methods because I need to survive. Once it's completely dark, I light a bonfire for illumination. It's time to do homework. I use a wide slate as a makeshift desk to go over the day's practical assignments. Fields requiring writing, like magic history or elemental studies, are my strengths. Fortunately, my brain still seems to be working fine. It's been a while since I've held a pen, but I also went through the tempest of being a college entrance exam student. Long live the South Korean private education frenzy. I memorize by scribbling on the slate with a small stick covered in ash, and the books are borrowed from the faculty building's student library. I can't afford to use a quill, ink, or personal books. When the moon reaches its zenith, I practice magic alone. My goal is to reach proficiency level 10 in basic elemental magic. The Department of Magic's second-year curriculum already assumes intermediate magic, so it's pointless to struggle with basic magic. Nonetheless, since I'm practicing magic, it's better to do it practically, so I use wind blade to trim trees and fire magic to adjust the bonfire's embers. As the drowsiness sets in, it's still not time to sleep. There's still a pre-sleep routine to go through. I check for any defects in the makeshift wooden shelter, replenish the firewood to ensure the campfire lasts through the night, and review the number of jerkies for tomorrow's lunch. If the water container is empty, I need to refill it. Then, after remembering tomorrow's schedule to plan the day, I fill the shelter with campfire smoke to keep away insects before ventilating it and settling down to sleep. With that, I can manage about 4 hours of sleep. Fortunately, I'm the type who doesn't oversleep, no matter how tired, which helped me adapt quickly during my military service. This has been my routine for about 10 days, and my body is already screaming in muscle pain. Even sitting on this wooden bench under the reddened sky is a small deviation from the routine. There's a mountain of tasks waiting back at camp. Maybe I should move the camp closer. I ponder, then shake my head. It's not worth setting up living quarters within other students' living areas. Besides, this long commute serves as physical training. No need to weaken my resolve. So exhausting. I force my creaking body up and start on my way again. What can I do, having reincarnated into this body? This level of hardship is something to accept. Surely, brighter days will come. Yet, there are silver linings. As I cross the northern forest, it dawns on me that after about 10 days of somehow maintaining this lifestyle, I've become somewhat confident in its sustainability. It's extremely tough and demanding, but somehow manageable. Life as a second year in the Department of Magic turned out to be more peaceful and calm than I imagined. Being looked down upon and whispered about everywhere I go has become something I just accept. What can I do? It's not my doing. But Ed Roth-Taylor had built up quite an unfavorable reputation. Still, it must be better than being a first year. That's where real chaos ensues, with accidents happening left and right in a wild adventure drama. If it's the beginning of the semester, events like Zix of the Plant Spear blowing up the experiment hall or Slowful Lucy electrocuting the dean's cat with lightning magic would be happening. The first practical lesson where students from the combat, magic, and alchemy departments faced demonic races together must have taken place. It's about time for the protagonist, Taylor, and the main characters to start interacting. However, behind the scenes, a surprisingly peaceful and regular daily life continues. From this perspective, it's not so bad. Even this tough and demanding lifestyle will become familiar with repetition. I just need to maintain my life, a step removed from the main characters, graduate, and say goodbye when the school's crisis arrives. It's not like the school will fall apart without me. The trials will resolve themselves without my intervention. Considering this, it seems I've started off on the right foot. No reason to despair. The variable, as always, is Yenica Failover. Hello, what are you eating? Dried meat. Good morning. What's your next class? Elemental Studies. Want to eat together in the cafeteria. Over the past 10 days, Yenica's lively greetings whenever we crossed paths in the faculty building remained unchanged. Naturally, her two close friends would appear, awkwardly drag her away, and disappear just as before. This wasn't part of the plan. There's no reason for her to take such an interest in me. Surely, there was a mistake, or something I hadn't noticed. Well, it should be fine. As I looked through the branches of the forest at dusk, my camp, now as comfortable as home, was in sight. It had been a long journey home. I've said it before, but in this world that flows according to the original story, I'm an anomaly. If I become a variable that overturns the world's flow, I'll lose the advantage of knowing the future. Therefore, It's right to maintain a certain distance from the world's important characters. While forcing a close relationship might be awkward and difficult, keeping a distance is easy. I can do it. For some reason, the enlightenment that had risen in my heart subsided somewhat, and in its place, hope that I could do well again took over. Somehow it will work out. Maintaining a proper distance is something I've had plenty of practice with in social life. It's okay, I can do this. With a heart full of hope, I stepped into my camp to continue striving through another day. Z's. That's when I found a girl curled up and sleeping inside my makeshift shelter. The brim of the witch hat covering her neck was so wide it almost hid her face, and the sights of utter indifference she emitted upon breathing immediately revealed her identity. I sat down on the rock chair, running a hand over my face. Sigh. It was a deep sigh that welled up from within. Why is she sleeping here? Even though we've never met, I could not know who she was. This girl is a character, plays a significant role from the beginning to the end of the Sylvania-Sylvailed sword serial, with a prescience comparable to the four main heroines. It's hard to judge by appearances alone. This seemingly infinitely lazy girl is one of the most notably troublesome characters. Why is she sleeping here like this? I looked around my camp for a moment. The northern forest of Akin Island. A deep place no one visits, but for this genius girl who could perform magic, walking, as naturally as breathing, this depth is nothing. Her range of movement is like that of a stray cats. Thanks to her skill in moving through magic, she can reach anywhere from the top of the clock tower to the roof of Gluck Hall, anywhere that's nice and sunny for a nap. So, where is this place? It's secluded, far from the academic buildings, with a pleasant breeze, the sound of a stream, and, thankfully, a shelter with a roof. There's no better place for skipping classes and napping. I did this to myself. Alice! By the time I exclaimed, it was a pointless monologue. Listening to slothful Lucy's sleep-talking, as gentle as a whisper, I covered my eyes with a hand, and sat silently for a while.